we are in Catalonia, west of the Mediterranean. Its capital, Barcelona, is one of the great Mediterranean seaports. Since ancient times, when Barcelona saw in succession Phocaeans, Carthaginians and Romans, it has continued to keep watch over the sea. So what could be more natural for it than to house the largest Mediterranean thematic aquarium in the world? This, of course, did not happen overnight. Building began in 1993, supervised by Mundo Submarino, who conceived the project. The architects Robert and Esteve Terradas designed the aquarium, which is situated on Quai Espagne in the Old Port. The most modern technology was used for its construction, and the best specialists were consulted for the building work, the equipping of the aquariums, and the collecting and cleansing of seawater. Once the water was in place, the first inhabitants could be housed, and these were sharks. On the 8th of September 1995, the aquarium was inaugurated and opened to the public in presence of the VIPs of Barcelona.
Sisplau.
I els taurons on els tens?
Ara anem al 18.
Buenos días, bienvenidos al Aquarium. La visita empieza aquí y tienen ustedes 20 acuarios más para disfrutar. Hacia allí, por favor.
Several thousands of species of marine and tropical fauna and flora can be found here. Specimens are presented according to the areas, depths, and the mineral and plant environment in which they develop in their natural state. Starting from the seashore and its shallow waters, we are going to sink to mysterious depths and discover the exceptional beauty of another world. The shallow sandy areas of the coast are the home for many marine species. The most typical are flatfish, such as soles or bothus. These lie on the seabed. They have pigmentation on their topside that looks so much like sand that they are invisible. The torpedo ray and the guitar ray can also be found in the same area. As for red silt mullets, they find their food by burrowing into the sediment with their barbs. The shallow rocky areas near the shore are full of cracks, which provide excellent hiding places for marine organisms. These comparatively warm and light waters are mainly inhabited by blennies and the hogfish. The impressive moray hunts during the night. The Romans in ancient times used its toxic blood as poison. Be careful, little fish. The apparently disdainful grouper is a formidable hunter. Formidable, yet prudent. At the slightest danger, he goes back to his lair. In tidal zones, a large number of organisms face the ever-breaking waves. A wave generator equips this aquarium so as to reproduce the conditions of their natural habitat. Normally, currents and waves mix and stir the waters and thus help to spread the plankton, which is the main food source of anemones and sea tomatoes. The most active inhabitants of these moving waters are sea wolves and oblades. The octopus has 8 arms, each with 2 rows of suckers, and can be found in the cracks of the rocks. Its size is often under 60 centimeters, but can also reach up to 1 meter in length. To disguise itself from its prey, and also from its hunters, it can immediately take on the color of its environment. In order to live as they would in their natural surroundings, or indeed even better than they normally would, fish and anemones have to feed. Menus and even pies are prepared every day and contain fish, crabs, mussels and plankton, more than 2 tons of food per week. The delta of the river Ebro and its estuaries represent a transition between marine and land life. The mixing of seawater and freshwater gives rise to an unusual biological phenomenon in which fauna and flora manage to thrive in spite of big differences of salinity. Two astonishing and yet common fish live in this zone. The eel, which lives in the river but lays its eggs in the Sargasso Sea, northwest of the West Indies, and the Royal Dorado or sea bream, which is hermaphrodite. This fish is born male and becomes female between the age of 2 and 3 years. Small cracks in the rocks are due to encrusting seaweed. These make an ideal home for many fish and invertebrata. The common Saar and grey sea bream, which like the royal sea bream is also hermaphrodite, can also generally be found here. A type of seagrass, the Posidonia oceanica, comes into flower each summer and can only be found in the Mediterranean or along the Basque coast. It forms large fields and is refuge and food for many species. It plays a fundamental part in the biological balance and represents the lungs of the Mediterranean Sea. It has been severely threatened by pollution and dragnet fishing and has now come under protection. An infinite number of living creatures owe their lives to this plant. Amongst them is the seahorse. In the springtime, the females place their eggs in the incubating pocket of the male, who will give birth to his children when the time comes. Spirographs are sea worms which live in their own self-secreted tube. They feed by filtering water, thanks to their spiral-shaped branchial panache. It's generally thought that the organisms are placed in the aquariums on arrival. This is not so. First, they're taken to the quarantine room, where biologists study their state of health and rid them of any parasites they might harbour. During the quarantine period, the new boarders get used to their new living conditions and feeding conditions. Those suffering from illnesses and those giving birth are also looked after here. Light varies in intensity in the sea according to the depth of the water and the time of day. So a computer monitors a zenithal-type lighting system for the biological comfort of the different species. This system recreates the circadian light cycle in each aquarium, an alternance of day and night. In quiet, less shallow zones, the rocks and seaweed house a scaleless fish called blennies. The astonishing red mullet gets red in the face with anger. It changes colour according to its temper. There is little light in deep waters. Green plants are replaced by encrusting animal life, which gives rise to an unusual habitat. The hogfish, scorpionfish, motionless and on the lookout, melts into the background. Here are two elegant fish, the vertically striped goatcomber and the horizontally striped grunt. In moderately deep rocky areas, sandy spaces can be found. These are appreciated by a fish which is one of the symbols of the Mediterranean, the wrasse. They too are hermaphrodite. Born female, they change their sex during the second half of their life. Many types of fish and organisms rarely come into contact with the seabed, but spend their lives swimming or floating in the sea. Amongst these are not only amberjacks and mackerel, but also plankton, which is the first and therefore the most important link in the marine food chain. Red coral is an almost exclusively Mediterranean species. A coral branch is made up of a colony of animals, polyps. Each one has 8 tentacles. The colour of their skeletons, made of calcium carbonate, is a must for jewellers. Coral used to be harvested traditionally by divers, then later mechanical harvesting began to endanger the precious material. Fortunately, this technique is now forbidden. The red mullet and the king of mullets, the striped red mullet, like these dusky depths and find refuge in cracks and sea grottos. In these rocky twilight zones can be found interesting calcareous seaweeds, coralligenes. This is typical of the Mediterranean seabed. Here the conger eel can find refuge in holes. This nocturnal hunter can measure up to 3 meters in length and weigh 65 kilos. Here comes the meal. Today's menu, squids and mussels. Tuck in and enjoy your dinner. In spite of the extreme conditions between 200 and 3,000 meters, a variety of fauna used to darkness and strong pressure live in these waters. You need a stick to push the ratfish out of its hiding place because it has a poisonous spine. It lies in waiting, buried in the sand. To lure its prey, a worm-like, retractile appendage shows above the sand, but it is in fact fixed onto its jaw. The pride of the aquarium is the oceanarium. This little artificial Mediterranean synthesizes all the preceding habitats and adds something both exceptional and spectacular. 4,000 cubic meters of seawater, constantly recycled, which is about the capacity of 3 Olympic swimming pools. There are 2 metacrylite tunnels, the largest in the world, to observe without any magnifying effects the very heart of that other world, where benthic, pelagian and great hunterfish live together in perfect biological equilibrium. The Mediterranean is one of the great seas of the world with a difference. It harbors a great number of ecosystems and species, including that greatest of marine hunters, the shark. The shark, like the ray, is different from other fish in that it has a cartilaginous skeleton. Its ancestor made its first appearance 450 million years ago, so it's the oldest fish in the world. Of the 350 different species of shark in the world, about 40 can be found in the Mediterranean. Its powerful jaws are armed with sharp teeth which grow again and again throughout its life. The adult grey shark is more than 2 meters long. The bull shark, more impressive, is over 3 meters. These two, along with the lemon shark, bulldog shark and tiger shark, belong to the dangerous shark club species. Next to these distinguished creatures can be found a whole world of marine fauna, which includes rubber-lipped grunt, groupers, stingrays, meagres, triggerfish and moray eels. A team of divers specialized in marine biology is necessary for the maintenance of such a pool and for the other aquariums. For the comfort both of visitors and the marine organisms, they clean the pools and keep an eye on the occupants almost non-stop. Water samples are taken every day to check biological quality. This constant control guarantees the best possible living conditions to the organisms in the aquarium. The sharks' meals are a necessity. It's a way of checking their food intake and prevents them from eating their little mates. The disappearance of their few victims is compensated by a regular birth rate. The Red Sea gets its name from red seaweed floating in patches on its surface. Butterfly fish, yellow-keel unicorn fish and surgeonfish enjoy its warm, very salty waters. In tropical waters, the coral reef is a typical habitat. The successive accumulation of coral builds up a wall-like reef, an atoll or even an island. This building job has been going on for millions of years. Clownfish live in colonies in sea anemones. This astonishing association is possible because these fish are covered in a mucus, which has the same chemical composition as the anemone's euthecarian cells. All clownfish are born as males. The dominant fish is a female, and her presence prevents the males from changing sex. The Caribbean Sea is imprisoned between the Great West Indies and Central America, and houses a great number of exclusive species thanks to its biogeographical isolation. French angelfish, sergeant majors, peacock wrasse and many others make up a multicolored crowd. The technical department of the aquarium want to offer the best living conditions possible to inmates. The quality of water is an absolute necessity. Water catchment takes place in wells on the beach of Barcelona. The filtering system uses a half-open cycle. The mass of liquid is filtered and regenerated permanently by the aquarium installations. The system guarantees that 5.5 million litres of water contained in the aquariums go through a chemical filter and a physical filter, and they are conditioned biologically before returning to the aquariums. In this way, there is sure to be good biological, physical and chemical quality. The Great Barrier Reef off the Australian coast stretches for more than 2,000 kilometres in length. It is the only living structure that can be seen from the moon. The unusual shapes and colours of butterfly fish, sturgeons and bird wrasse make them distinguished inhabitants of this microcosm. The Hawaiian Islands possess the most northerly situated reefs of the Central Pacific. Although they do not have the same richness of species as those of the Western Zone, they still have an interesting population. Sea fans or gorgons are invertebrate organisms with an internal axial skeleton and an external calcareous cortex. Among the many organisms living in coral reefs, a lot can be dangerous to man, in spite of their peaceful appearance. Such are the scorpionfish, armed with long, poisonous spikes. Others, like the ballfish, bristle up their spikes by swelling with water. As for cowfish, their skin secretes a toxic substance that protects them from predators. The most poisonous of all is the stonefish. Its bite can kill a man in 20 minutes. Visitors are sometimes surprised by the strange looks or ways of some types of fish. The competent and attentive aquarium hostesses are ready to give any necessary information. The aquarium teaches us to relax as we learn. "95% of the rocks used for decoration are artificial, so as to preserve the environment. However, when set with some natural rocks and living organisms, the resulting scene is very pleasant." A ring of fringed reefs circles a tropical atoll, and the inner waters are warm and calm. Space to live in is so rare that hiding places have different inhabitants each evening. Then the night fish leave their hidey holes to the day fish. The third three-spiked dorsal fin of the triggerfish is armed. They get their name from the position of the first spike, thanks to its trigger system formed by the second spike. As for the surgeonfish, on either side of their tails is a pair of erectile spikes that look just like scalpels. The Mediterranean room covers an area of 1,000 square meters. Social events and temporary exhibitions on marine life take place here. The auditorium is the place for conferences, debates and audiovisual projections on marine fauna and flora.
Basadas en informaciones erróneas. Parte del problema reside en dónde les observamos. Al tratarse de criaturas que viven en mar abierto, no siempre se comportan con naturalidad en los espacios.
The aquarium is a fabulous pedagogical instrument. The aquarium's educational unit supervises pupils and teachers every day.
Els peixos veuen? Tenen ulls? Sí? Perquè per respirar, generalment als peixos l'aigua entra per la boca i surt per la...
The youngest children, after a guided visit, react to scenes inspired by marine life and acted by the personnel of the Scientific Interactive Theatre.
Sí, home, menja!
For the older children, there are 3 classrooms wherein instructor supervises talks and debates.
Aquí les brànquies. Aquí tenim les brànquies d'un peix. Per un costat està tancat i teniu la tapa.
Cafeteria has a panoramic view of the harbour and is like an oasis where refreshment is pure pleasure. The day has, as always, been too short. A way to remember it by can be found in the souvenir gift shop, where presents are a reminder of the sea. But it's a child's smile, full of wonder, that is the reward for the people who work in the aquarium each day, so that this other world will continue to live in his dreams.